All right, good evening, everyone. Happy 7:01 p.m. on February 16th, and welcome to tonight's IND general meeting. We have a jam-packed night. I'm Danielle Zuckerman, First Vice President of IND. I'll be running the meeting tonight as Alyssa is away on some hopefully exciting vacation. So let's call this meeting to order. Tonight, we're going to be approving some amendments to IND's constitution. We'll hear from some candidates for surrogates court, borough-wide civil court, municipal court district 1. Then we'll go through some club business where we will elect our slate of officers and executive board. We'll talk a little bit about petitioning and endorsements, and then we'll do some voting. Sound good? Right. And just a reminder, as we're hearing from candidates who've come from far and wide to our Zoom meeting, keep it respectful, keep it friendly. Everyone's got a right to their time with the floor. So just keep it light here. And a reminder for attendance purposes to make sure your Zoom name reflects your real name so we can count your attendance here this evening. And just one more quick note, eligible voting members should have received a test ballot over email and verification of voting eligibility. If you didn't receive that, let us know in the chat and we'll try and run that down with you. But first order of business will be the amendments to the Constitution. I'm going to pass that over to Seamus to give us a little bit of an overview of that.
Thanks, Danielle. So if everyone saw their email today, we went through, it had all of the summary of everything that was in there, which there's about 25 changes from grammatical cleanups to basically codifying a lot of existing practices. Make biggest change that people notice is that it's going to require returning members to do 2 meetings a year. However, this will not be retroactive, so you will be able to vote tonight. It'll be effective in 2024. So that's the biggest thing. Does anyone have any questions? Going once, going twice, 3 times. With that, I would like to make a motion to approve the slate of amendments as done or as written.
So moved.
I move. So second.
That's email from yesterday.
And then, Madam President, you all in favor?
All in favor?
I'm in favor.
All right.
Motion is
Sounds
approved.
good. Thank you, everyone. We're powering through here. So we're going to start to hear from some candidates. Each candidate has 2 minutes to speak. I have this really fancy sign where I'll warn you when you have 1 minute left. It's not as nice as my old sign, but I think it'll get the job done. So with that, let's hear from Surrogates Court candidate Bernie Graham.
Hello, can you hear me? My name is Bernie Graham. I'm going to talk fast because it's 2 minutes and I have a lot to say. I was elected to civil court in 2004. I am a lifelong resident of Park Slope. When I ran, I had support of clubs, CPID, where I had always been a member, IND, and Lambda. I ran in competitive election in 2004. I served in the civil court for 3 years and volunteered to work in family court where I was for 3 years. It was a very good experience for me as a judge. It allowed me to handle almost any other case that would come along. I was then appointed to acting Supreme Court Judge 360 Adams, which is a trial court of civil matters. I spent a number of years as an acting judge, and then in 2013, I was elected to Supreme Court, where I was doing trials of various matters and eventually doing medical malpractice trials, which are very detailed and intricate. I've always worked very hard in any court I've been in. I have a very good reputation amongst the lawyers in the Brooklyn legal community. And part of what I was seeing was that the surrogates court, for as many of you know, became very dysfunctional. They weren't processing their cases, and it was affecting the rest of the legal community. So I had volunteered to help out a year ago to OCA, the court administration. And at the time, they had somebody filling in who then had to retire at the end of December. I then was called and said, would you mind coming over? We could use the help. The surrogate is suspended. And I figured I would be there for a while, just helping out while the disciplinary proceeding played out. It then accelerated because the surrogate retired to avoid any hearings, and the space opened up. I was aware of how dysfunctional the court is, being there for the last month. It really is almost tragic. The cases of people who passed away hadn't been addressed for approximately 2 years. And it's very important, one of the most important courts in the city, that the judges are stable, capable, hardworking, and honest. So I think I fit that bill, and I said, all right, I will change direction and run for the spot. It's a little bit of a sacrifice on my part because I had a nice, comfortable Supreme Court position. And I'm now running for surrogate, which requires mandatory retirement at 70, which gives me only about 7 or 8 years. But I think I do, based on all my experience, my community activism, my family court experience, I've worked in the mental hygiene part, and my record as a successful trial judge all help in letting me handle what's going on and work with the other surrogate to make it do its job and process the cases so that people can get their estates settled and their homes sold, get out of the foreclosures. Some of these cases are 10 years old. It's almost embarrassing.
Thank you so much. Thank
Two
you for
minutes
that.
on the dot.
Yes, goes by quick.
Thank you.
Hey, and I'm going to open the floor to questions. Steve.
Yes, Judge, how are you? I want to know what your vision is. I think that certainly Judge Montalbano has done an unbelievable job trying to clean up the mess. What's your vision in terms of working with her? Because my understanding is the court prior to that was sort of balkanized, 2 different camps. What's your vision of working with Judge Montalbano?
Well, that's an easy question because Judge Montalbano and I get along extremely well. In fact, she's really hoping that I become the surrogate because we are of a like mind. She's got a good head on her shoulders. She works hard, and I can tell she's genuinely committed to straightening things out, as I am. So that will not be an issue at all. And it does highlight that you do need 2 judges who get along, because when they don't, there's 2 different sets of rules. The clerks get all flummoxed. They don't know which way to go. It becomes a problem. And that was happening in recent years. So to answer your question, Judge Montalbano and I are going out of our way to make 1 set of rules, address everybody the same way, treat everybody nicely. And it's already having an effect. People are acting a little bit better morale. And the staff it's like a weight is being lifted off their shoulders after all these years of acrimony and dysfunction.
Great. Quite frankly, I've heard the same, which is really good to hear. It's a very important point.
It really is.
Jesse, did you have a question?
Yes. Good evening, Judge.
Hi.
I handle a lot of nursing home neglect cases, and I was wondering if you could. So a lot of my cases have a surrogate court component to them, and I was wondering if you could speak to the significance of dying without a will and how that affects what happens in surrogate court and how that affects people in Brooklyn.
Well, there's 2 ways to die. One is with a will and one is without a will. People can make a will and sometimes can be disastrous also, because they may say something that says, like I saw one today that said, I never want the house sold, but they had 4 children and one was living in the house. And, you have to be careful what you say. Administration, which is the process, people die without a will, it goes through the legal intestacy statutes that passes your property to your next of kin, which and many times that can be fine because it is a fair way of distributing the property to the spouse and the children. So there's nothing inherently wrong with administration. They both go on separate tracks, but it's always better to be clear about what you want, how you want your property to be dispersed, who you want to be your executor, and that would require a will. Is that what you're getting at, or?
I didn't think I had a specific answer in mind. But if I did, you nailed it.
Okay.
Great. We have
We have a
time for
lot of
one more
nursing home
question.
cases, by the way, just so you know.
I think we have time for one more question if anyone's got one. And if you're raising your hand and I can't see it, I apologize. All right, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Danielle.
Okay, and I see District Leader Aaron Oyang here and Judge Capel. Good to see you. Now we'll move into borough-wide civil court. We're starting with Siobhan Sanon. Siobhan, are you here?
Hi, I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
Excellent. Hi, go ahead.
Hi.
You can get started.
Okay, hi, I'm sorry. Good evening, everyone. I'm Siobhan Sanon. I'm running for a civil court judge. So currently I'm an administrative law judge. I supervise 7 administrative law judges at the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles. And my job basically is to make sure that everyone that comes into the court gets justice. Everyone is heard. If there's an interpreter needed, that is provided, that the judges carefully listen to information, to evidence presented, and that they allow everyone to have a voice before they make their final decision. Prior to that, I spent about 10 years in private practice. I represented both plaintiffs and defendants in all types of cases, including contract disputes, personal injury cases. I've represented men in family court who were the victim of false charges where they had to defend them in order of protections. I've represented criminal defendants in federal and state court. Some of those cases resulted in civil rights violations, civil rights suits where the person was wrongfully arrested. So I definitely have a myriad of experience in family, civil, and criminal court. And I've represented both sides, as I've said, which uniquely qualifies me for this position, as well as the fact that I've actually been an administrative law judge, which is, you know, an administrative law judge, although it's not an elected position, the job is to listen to evidence. The job is to make decisions. These decisions affects people's everyday lives. So I never took it lightly. I made sure that I listened to everyone and made an informed decision. And when those decisions got appealed, that I also took heed and made sure that my decision was well informed. So I'm running for civil court judge because I feel like I can bring all of these experiences to the people of Brooklyn and be fair and compassionate, which I think sometimes makes a big difference. Just the other day, I was talking to a gentleman who had a case a month ago, and he was, you know, the clerks told him that we couldn't open up the case. The administrative judge told him that, but he wanted to hear from the head judge. And I spent 15 minutes speaking to him, and I couldn't change his mind, but I do understand his frustration. And at the end of our conversation, he really felt heard, and he left the court less angry than he was. So sometimes it's not going to be that you get everything that you want, but I was able to be compassionate and listen to his story. So at least he felt like he was heard before he left. And that's the same type of compassion that I would bring as a civil court judge, because I think sometimes people, especially people of color, they're not heard and they don't feel heard. And I think that's very important. And that's what I think I can bring to the position. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to open the floor. Who's going to question? Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, how you doing? You know, I was thinking about this. I'm an attorney, and I think several of us are attorneys, and we sometimes talk about this person has a good reputation as a judge or a bad reputation as a judge. I just want to know your opinion on kind of what makes a good judge in a courtroom, running a courtroom well? What makes a bad judge? What are the things you think about when you think about those qualities?
Well, some things that I think about, definitely you have to have courtroom management skills. And I can see it, some of my judges take a little longer and sometimes they don't have to. So I think a judge who manages their courtroom accordingly is going to be considered a better judge. And that means determining which cases go first. So for example, if you have a case with an interpreter and 3 witnesses, and you have other cases where there are none, you don't want to do that case first, because everyone else is sitting in the courtroom for an unnecessary amount of time when that could have been done, and then you take the other case with the interpreter that is more complicated and do that after. So judges have to be thinking about that, because people don't have all day to be in court. And one of the things that I think I can do a little differently, I spent hours in court unnecessarily because, the judge or the clerk did not get to me because the courtroom wasn't being managed properly. So I think courtroom management skills are a big deal. One of the things that I experienced as a private practice attorney, I was a new mom. I had a 4-month-old baby and my babysitter didn't show up. I showed up in civil court before the judge because I wasn't going to let the client miss his case. And the judge welcomed me into the courtroom with open arms, continued with the case as though my child was not there. And that was very important to me because I was able to advocate for my client, even though I was in a personal situation that wasn't ideal.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jason. Next question. Feel free to use the raise hand function or just wave your hand at me. All right, I'll ask a question. What
Okay.
do you anticipate would be the most challenging aspect of this role?
Just especially with family court, where you deal with so matters of the heart, people are emotionally intertwined, just sort of dealing with that and acknowledging that. And a lot of times, you take a moment to really acknowledge someone's feelings, and it really makes a difference, because when someone's emotional and upset and angry and they don't feel like they're being heard, you can't have a successful court day, right? Nothing gets done. And oftentimes, as an administrative law judge, when I had people who came into court and they were angry, I always took a second to say, I understand this is frustrating. I understand you waited 2 years to be here. And, like if an officer doesn't show up and a person's sitting there waiting and they're waiting anxiously to tell their story and they get upset, it just takes a moment to just talk to that person. And I think a lot of judges may not understand that because you're thinking of getting your cases moving and moving on. So I think that's a difficult part, but once you've done it and you understand that that's going to happen, you know how to deal with it and you're prepared for it, such as I am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
Next we'll move on to Turquoise Haskins. I'm sorry, Haskin.
Yes. Good evening.
Pluralized you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. Good evening, IND family. My name is Turquoise Haskin, and it's my great pleasure to appear before you as your candidate for borough-wide civil court judge in Kings County. 20 years ago, I embarked on my legal career as a student at Emory School of Law. And during my first year, I reached a crossroads where I had to choose whether, like many of my peers, would I work at a major law firm after graduation or pursue the road less traveled, a career in public service, identifying and addressing the needs of my community. I chose the latter. During my second year of law school, I externed at the ACLU, participating in legal advocacy on a variety of social justice issues. I also externed at the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, ensuring individuals were not discriminated in employment based upon race, gender, age, national origin, or sexual orientation. And my last 15 years as an attorney demonstrates my deep breadth of experience helping our community. I've served as a court attorney in both Kings County Civil and Supreme Courts, working on thousands of cases and over 300 jury trials, and sat with members of our community and assisted them in resolving disputes during some of the most troubling chapters of their lives. I've also worked as a special referee of uncontested matrimonial matters, worked at the HPD, and served at the New York Attorney General's office as well as work as a small claims arbitrator in small claims court where I sit on the bench, conduct trials, and render decisions. In addition, I have extensive volunteer background that equips me to have the temperament, empathy, discretion, and knowledge of the law to be a high qualified jurist. I pledge to serve Brooklyn as an enlightened voice for fairness, justice, and equality. This is why all who enter my courtroom will be protected from unfair parties intending them injustice. Thank you for your consideration, and I would be honored to earn your vote.
Thank you so much. That was almost a perfect 2 minutes. I guess we'll get started with the question Jason asked before. What do you think makes a good judge in a courtroom? What makes a bad judge?
I would say that a judge is one who sets the temperature in the courtroom. So everything that happens in a courtroom is premised upon the judge's presentation, the judge's behavior, the way the judge interacts with the parties. So for me, it's key that the judge maintains a proper tone, that they're civil and respectful to all parties, that they maintain adequate time management, that they have sound knowledge of the law and its application, and that they give everyone due process, meaning that each party has an adequate chance to argue and represent their respective interests.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, any other questions? Don't be shy, guys. All right, then I will monopolize the floor and I'll ask my other question. What do you anticipate will be the most challenging aspect of this role?
I would say one of the most challenging is that I'm very independent. I'm a hard worker. I work tirelessly to get the job done. So it's going to be a unique position to have a court attorney to then also bounce ideas off of and to give them that discretion to also assist, because I'm very independent. I am a team player, but at the same time, I'm a very hard worker. And it would just be interesting to be in that position where I'm the judge, and then I would be instructing the court attorney and then giving them a level of autonomy to assist me in legal research and writing. And that's why it would be so important for me to make sure that I have a court attorney that has high integrity, that is knowledgeable, that's a hard worker as I am, so that we could work together to get the job done.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Oh, Hal?
Yeah, have you been endorsed by anybody else? Any political figures or clubs or anyone?
Yeah, so at this point, I'm going through the process. I just went through the ad hoc forum. I went before the Judicial Screening Committee, so I'm waiting to get the results from both of those bodies. But I've had a number of positive interactions with elected officials, with district leaders, and I believe that they're waiting to get the results from those two forums.
All right, thank you so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure.
Next up, also for Borough-wide Civil Court, we have Betsy Jean-Jacques. Are you here, Betsy?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Betsy Jean-Jacques. I am running for Civil Court Judge countywide. I was born in the Flatlands area of Brooklyn. I was born to parents who immigrated from Haiti. I have been an attorney for 16 years. I have both a law degree and a master's in social work. My first year and my first summer of my law school career, I went to work for Legal Aid, and I was working in the chemically ill, mentally addicted project. And what I learned was that there were not just legal criminal issues affecting my clients, there were issues having to do with substance use and mental illness. So what I did was I went quickly back to Syracuse and I asked them, please, I want a master's in social work because I want to learn more about the issues affecting people, and I want to see everything through a different lens. Following that, I began my work at Mental Hygiene Legal Service, where I was there for 11 years, representing adults and children in psychiatric institutions. I also did guardianship cases. Most of my clients were elderly. And in those cases, oftentimes there were issues of abuse. I worked also as a court evaluator in those situations. And as an attorney for Mental Hygiene Legal Service, I would travel all over Brooklyn in psychiatric institutions, in nursing homes, working with people and advocating for them. I also, in my evenings, volunteered as a small claims arbitrator. I was able to listen to both sides, see the evidence, and make my decisions. And for the last 5 years, I've been the principal law clerk to the Honorable Francois A. Rivera in Supreme Court civil term. And I mostly draft decisions, conference cases, do research, but the best part of our job is we do work with young seniors and prepare them for law school by showing them how to do case review. And I love that because I love seeing someone who doesn't think they're going to make it do well in their future. I'm very involved in a lot of bar associations. I've had a lot of leadership positions in those associations. And through those associations, I've been helping the community by doing voter drives, by doing Operation Backpack, by doing supplies for victims of domestic violence shelters, Toys for Tots, as well as I'm a former co-chair of the Diversity Committee of the Women's Bar Association of the state of New York. And for the last about 4 or 5 years, I've been going around teaching about implicit bias in the legal community, both to judges and to lawyers. And I would hope that you all support me because the goal that I have and I've had for my 16 years is to examine things not just as in the legal issue, but to do what I learned as a social worker, to be person focused and look at the issues that are affecting the person and issue spot. And I would hope that tonight, after hearing me and asking me your questions, that you endorse me and support me in my quest to be a judge of the civil court. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, let's open it up to questions. I'll get us started with Jason's question. What do you think makes a good judge? What makes a not so good judge?
Well, for 11 years, I spent my time in the mental hygiene part. And sometimes I think the most important thing for me was always having the opportunity to be heard, not just hearing from the people you think are favorable, listening to both sides. And I've definitely had those moments where they heard from the hospital and didn't hear from me. I never want anybody to come to my courtroom and feel that way. It's so important for me for people to know that I'm listening, that I've prepared. I've read your motion, I've read your papers, because I've seen attorneys come in and say, oh, you didn't read our motion. That doesn't happen in our part. We do read that. So I think it's important to understand the frustrations that people have and to be focused on them and give them what they came for, which is justice. So that's what I think is important in being a good judge.
Thank you. Passion Smith, you have your hand up?
I do. Thank you for recognizing me. I just wanted to ask a question, really for this candidate and all candidates. How can we trust that your personal experiences will allow you to remain unbiased, right? In dealing out justice as we see it fit, as we the people. Like, how do you remove your personal situations from the law, and how can we trust you to do so?
Well, one of the things that judges are called to do is to be fair and just. But one of the things I think that we have learned is that bias exists. One of the things that I train and teach people about is implicit bias. And you can only check bias by recognizing that you have bias and making sure that when you're evaluating something, you don't make quick decisions. Oftentimes people have, especially judges, have voluminous cases, and studies have shown that if you, power through, sometimes everything bleeds together. So recognizing that there is the potential for bias makes you check your bias. So for me personally, I make sure that when I'm making a decision, it's not hasty. I'm looking at the individual facts, I'm applying the law and making sure I'm aware of that standard. So it's impossible to say in today's day and age and the studies that we've seen that there is no bias because we're all human, but understanding and checking your bias, making sure that you're focusing on what you're doing and making sure that every decision you make is based on what you see, what's presented to you, and not on my personal opinion or somebody else's feelings or pleasing anybody else, but really focusing on the people who are appearing before you. So that's what my focus is.
Thank you. Hal?
Yeah, the question I've asked before of the other candidates, have you received any endorsements from any elected officials, clubs, or bar associations, et cetera? Anybody else endorsed you?
Well, right now, unfortunately, even though we're close to the period of petition season, we're going around speaking to people and trying to get people to support us. Obviously, I've had some really great conversations, but I think they're keeping it close to the vest until we get see what happens with the Democratic Party.
Hey, any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Linda Wilson. Hi, Linda.
Hi, good evening, everyone. One moment, I think I am unmuted now. My name is Linda Wilson, and I am a candidate for the countywide position of civil court judge. Thank you for your time this evening. So I am a lifetime resident of Brooklyn, New York, with the exception of the time that I spent living at New York University and Columbia University School of Law. All of my work has been centered around serving communities. I am a career public servant, a 30-year employee of the New York State court system. My first employer in the New York State court system, incidentally, is my current employer, and that would be the Appellate Division, Second Department. I served as a court attorney in the law department in the Appellate Division. Then I moved on to Supreme Court, and where I worked in the civil part of the Supreme Court. Along the way, I received various trainings as an arbitrator, court-trained mediator, and eventually I returned to the Appellate Division again, where I became a foreclosure specialist in that court during the hopping years of foreclosure eviction on the tail end of the predatory lending schemes that we're all aware of and that disrupted our economy and destabilized our communities. And so there's a lot of great work that has been centered around jurisprudential laws that bring equity and fairness into this equation, and also centered around making sure that the legislative initiatives are followed. At about 2017, I stepped out of the appellate division and I worked as a court attorney referee in surrogates court. And to Bernie's point, place was backlogged and confused, and it was quite the task to make sense of things and to move cases along. But fortunately, with all the training that I've had in the court system, I was able to move cases along that had been sitting around since the 1990s, in fact. And to my satisfaction, when I started the process of applying for civil court judge, many attorneys came forward and said they were contacted by the screening committee and that they gave me a rave review. They were happy that I listened to them and their clients, and even pro se litigants felt validated and heard, and that they were finally achieving some progress. And in the end of last year, I was called upon by my current employer in the appellate division, a newly appointed justice who was very familiar with my work and knew that I had been entrusted as a court attorney in that court on many occasions as a leader, and that I was entrusted with the quasi-judicial appointment of being a referee in surrogates court. And she wanted me to come and assist her at her right hand as a counselor to her in chambers. And that would be the Honorable Janice A. Taylor. And for Justice Taylor, I serve as her counselor, advisor, and the person who is the quick study on the other end of the computer at 2, 3, and 4 a.m. in the morning, because justice never sleeps in the appellate division. You can find a light on there around the clock. For those of you who live in Brooklyn Heights, if you pass by, you might see people like me peering out the window looking for signs of life, to know that what I'm doing is really worth it for the people who are milling about.
Thanks so
So
much.
sure. Did I reach 2 minutes?
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay.
I know time flies, but I do want to make sure we have time for some questions for you. Anyone have any immediate questions? If not, I'll go with the perennial Jason question. What do you think makes a good judge and a not so good judge?
Those have to raise your hand.
Do we do it now?
But I think a good judge is one who listens twice as much as they talk. So a good judge will use her
Yes,
mouth and her ears proportionately. Until you have all the facts and circumstances before you, it's not prudent to rush into judgment. And with that in mind, a good judge also is deliberative, contemplative, well-informed, knowledgeable, and has a grasp of the law. So my 30 years experience in the court has kept me informed on process, substantive law, and my many years of experience in the appellate division gives me a bird's eye view of all areas of the law. And they come fast and furious, and you have to know where to find the answers. But when you're doing this long enough, the answer can be at your fingertips. So a good judge really is someone who's experienced, knowledgeable, not just in the law, but in life, and who knows the communities that they serve. So that's one of the reasons why when I served as a small claims court arbitrator, I worked in the civil court in Brooklyn. I also volunteered in the civil court in Lower Manhattan and in the Harlem Community Justice Center to get an idea of what the needs of the communities are. I don't know any bad judges. I've really had the great privilege of being trained by masters and giants in the law. I've been running around the courthouses since I was 15. I knew at a very young age that I would be dedicating my career to public service. So I'm sorry that I can't speak to bad judging.
Thank you. And before I get to the next couple of questions, public service announcement, please, if your name is iPhone or iPad, change it to reflect your real name so we can record you for attendance purposes and make sure we get you a ballot. Hal, what is your question?
Actually, my question is here. Ira Weinstock wants to ask a question.
Yeah, my question is, what would be your criteria for hiring staff?
Are you referencing legal staff or non-legal staff?
Well, both.
Okay, for legal personnel, I would say that first and foremost, I would require someone who is committed to public service. I would like to have a stable court attorney who is in it for the long term. And that would be someone who is comparable and compatible to the way I view my commitment to the justice system. Secondarily, someone who's honest, who's a good listener, a team player, and also possesses a high level of scholarship and curiosity, because you can't rest on your laurels on any particular case. The law really is very dynamic, and so are facts and circumstances. So I want someone who's really in touch with what's happening in our world, but who's really keen on understanding legal theory and common law, statutory law, and what he or she doesn't know, they should know where to find the answers quickly. As far as non-legal staff goes, I want people who feel as though they are going to be a part of a family. I have experienced in all of my time in the appellate division being welcomed from the very beginning as a 25-year-old, as a member of a family that I had just met. And so that's how the courts get to get a good work product. It's the collegiality and treating people as though you would treat people who you would in your home and in your community. And you get the best work product out of people who are happy and comfortable at work and who are given an opportunity to grow and lead. And then at the end of the 30 years, you have someone like me who is ready, willing, and capable of filling the voids that we now see on the bench.
Thank you. Melinda's got her hand up. Melinda?
Hi, everyone. Hi, club. This question is for all of the candidates. So if you weren't able to answer because you had already spoken, please answer in the chat. That would be great. But for you, Linda, and all of the candidates going forward, I'm really interested in how you process and make decisions. So a lot of you highlight where you've been, what you've done, your past experience, but I'm not really clear on how you make decisions. So whether you're an attorney or you're a judge, again, this is for all of the candidates. I want to hear if you could provide an example to the extent that you can, provide us with an example of when you needed to make a hard, difficult decision on the bench or in trial. What did that look like? What experience did you bring with you to lean in terms of making that decision? Again, I think it's great that you're highlighting your experience, all of you, but I really want to know how you think and how you process and how you how you're going to move forward in terms of making these challenging, difficult decisions. So what are you bringing with you? Are you bringing the mindset of understanding what does it mean to be a Black person if you're Black? What does it mean to be a woman if you're LGBTQ? What does it mean to bring that to the bench? I understand the whole fair and impartial part of it, but I really want to understand how you think. So again, for those of you who already answered the question, if you can answer it in the chat just to provide equity and fairness, but going forward, that will be a question for all of you. And sorry to put you on the spot, Linda. It just came to me, but those of you who have not gone, you'll have an opportunity to think about how you'd answer that question.
Well, I welcome that question. You know, for my entire life, I've walked around in the skin that I'm in. And often I know that the world is looking at me through a lens because that's the feedback that I'm getting. And even your question highlights that. You know, what do you do as a woman if you're in a position of power? What do you do as a Black person if you're in a position of power? And what I say to that is that you treat everyone with dignity, with fairness, with justice. Justice for all. It's not just a cliche. And no matter who you are, where you come from, and what you do for a living, if you go to a court to have a conflict resolved or to get redress for a wrong, then you should have the expectation that no matter who is sitting inside the Black robe, whether it's a Black person or a non-Black person, that you're going to get a just outcome. And what does justice look like? It looks like the person or the persons involved in the controversy have been heard. It looks like a full and independent assessment of the case from both sides. And it looks like someone who has the knowledge, the appropriate knowledge and breadth of experience to know how to make a resolution that's the right one. That's what justice is. Justice is doing what's right. And so to that end, I think that sometimes equity does play in. And I hear what you're saying. A judge has multiple tools in her arsenal to achieve justice. Equity is one of them, but also fairness. And sometimes fairness doesn't mean that everyone is treated the same because the law doesn't always allow for that. Certain parties are treated with deference in the law. Minors are treated with a certain level of protectiveness. People with disabilities. So there, in the law, we have a lot of philosophies that dictate how certain groups are to be treated. But at the end of the day, when a judge uses her discretion, at every turn, she has to be able to take her personal experiences out of the equation and make sure she follows the law. And to me, that's it. It's in black and white or black and gray. It's two-sided. It's a hard yes to fairness under the law, and it's a hard no to tipping the scales for folks because you relate in some particular way. And as far as the process goes, Melinda, you have to start at ground zero with hearing each side. So in my role as an appellate division law clerk, my process is I look at the order that's appealed from so that I know what the issues are, and then I read the appellate briefs. I want to know what the arguments are, and then I read the entire record. I have to have an entire grasp of the case before I know which laws I'm going to invoke. And that doesn't make it challenging at all. It makes it a process that I can utilize over and over and over again, because I'm always going to end up with the right outcome. And there are difficult decisions to be made, but that doesn't mean that those decisions are difficult for me to arrive at. I think that every problem that comes before a judge can be resolved. There are again, myriad ways to come to a resolution that is just, that is right. But you can only do that after hearing both sides and taking all of your bias out of it. And I know that there are a lot of studies about implicit bias, but when I go into deciding a case, or if parties are before me as a referee or as an arbitrator, or in my position as a principal law clerk, I have a very high obligation to go in and see the law and the people as humans, not as anything other than that. And when we recognize each other's humanity, we can arrive at a just result.
Thanks so much, Linda. I want to make sure we have time for everyone else. I see Passion has a question. I'd ask that you put that in the chat just so we can keep moving and make sure we get to everyone. I do want to allow for a quick interlude. Senator Andrew Bernardis is on the line, and I want to give him the opportunity to say hello before he has to go to baby bath time.
That's what we're calling it now, baby bath time. Thanks, Danielle. Hello, everyone. Thanks for letting me interject here. Just want to say a quick hello. It is obviously quite an eventful, it's been a quite eventful week, or month, I should say, in Albany, especially around matters concerning the judiciary. I'm sure everyone who follows the news, reads a newspaper, knows that this week, yesterday, in fact, the Senate voted down, the full Senate voted down the governor's nominee to be Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals. This is a vote that we didn't think we'd have to take because the Senate really believed that under its rules, if the committee, which rejected the nominee a month ago, did not give its assent, then the full Senate did not have to then take up the matter because the matter died. It was a matter that the governor insisted had to happen. And then last week we were sued by the Senate Republicans to try to force a constitutional crisis as well as embarrass the governor. And rather than have this drag out for another couple of weeks or months and have to get it tied up in a budget negotiation of, $227 billion budget, we as a conference decided just to rip the Band-Aid off and say, you know what, we don't think we need to do this, but if everyone else wants to insist, we're going to do it anyway. And like we told you a month ago, the nominee does not have the votes, and we'll prove it to you. And ultimately, Justice LaSalle failed in a vote 39-20 on the floor. I'm hopeful that this is now behind us. The governor chooses a new nominee, which has broader support, not just amongst my colleagues, but I think amongst a lot of the key Democratic constituencies, particularly labor and, organizations of the progressive left and, women's rights groups, et cetera. So that's behind us. Now we turn our attention to the budget. We started budget hearings this week, and they go through until the week after next. And then we begin the last month sprint to finalize the budget. At the budget hearings this week and last week, had a chance to grill the DOT commissioner, state DOT commissioner, on the state's lack of engagement at any point on the BQE plan. Had a chance to discuss with the DEC commissioner a lot of concerns that I know folks in the Gowanus area have had about lack of responsiveness from DEC, and also had a chance to talk with the mayor about a lot of the costs he's being asked to pick up by the governor, specifically around education, the migrants, and the MTA. So I'll keep it brief because I know we have a full agenda. I don't know if we have time for a question or two, Danielle, but I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, I hope to see you all real soon.
Anyone have a question for Senator Bernardis? All right, let me jump in. What's your top budget priority?
Oh, I have two that I'm really focused on. Number one, actually three. You never just pick one. Of course, I'm going to continue my advocacy on the New Deal for CUNY. Last year, we secured the largest single increase for CUNY funding in a generation. This year, the governor's budget proposal is, I think, embarrassing as it relates to CUNY. I'm really disappointed we're not doing better and not doing more. This is an institution that needs a lot of support. And so we're going to continue to push for a new deal. Number two, structural changes to how the MTA gets funded. The MTA is facing a significant fiscal cliff, all due through COVID. This is not a matter of like the MTA being corrupt or mismanaged. You know, if COVID had not happened, the MTA would not be in the financial straits that it's in today. The governor's proposed a $1.3 billion rescue plan. That's a good start. It's not enough. We need more. And so I'll be looking to push for more funding for the MTA, especially because, you know, the MTA's budget in the past, 40% of it was funded on the backs of riders. That is not a sustainable model for funding mass transit. We don't pay for sanitation services that way. We don't pay for police services that way, fire service that way. Why should we pay for public transit that way? And thirdly, and lastly, you may have heard me mention this before. Last year, the end of last year, I proposed the working families tax credit, which would be a significant expansion of the state's existing child tax credit. It would be up to $1,500 per year per child in the state. It would eliminate the eligibility gaps that does not allow the state tax credit to be paid to children 0 to 4 or to children of immigrant families. And based on the success of the expanded federal child tax credit, which bumped up to $3,600 and was paid out monthly, so you got a $300 check every month, we're proposing $1,500 tax credit per child paid out quarterly. And it would have the same, similar impact that the expanded federal child tax credit had while it was in existence. Of course, it has since expired. In the course of the federal tax program, 50%, it lowered the child poverty rate in this country by 50%, which is huge. 3 million kids no longer living in poverty. Under my proposal, just for New York State, it would slash child poverty in New York by 20%. New York has one of the highest rates of child poverty in the nation. 20% of kids in this state live in deep, deep, abject poverty. And so I'm really making a big push on trying to get this enacted in the budget. It would be a game changer for families everywhere in the state. So can't pick just one, but those are my top three things that are on my mind right now.
Thank you so much, Senator. Have a good night. And
thank you, guys.
Always good to see you. All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Let's hit it. Borough-wide civil court. I know that Kenneth Gale is here. I think he was one of the mysterious iPhone folks. Are you still here, Kenneth?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry about that.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Kenneth Gale. Hi, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn. Both my parents graduated from Tilden High School. I graduated from Brooklyn Tech. Then went on to SUNY Westbury, worked at the New York City Council under Speaker Valone, then attended Fordham Law. Upon graduating from Fordham Law, I went to work for Bill Lynch at his lobbying firm, Bill Lynch Associates. After that, I opened my own personal injury real estate general practice firm here in Brooklyn, where I've been a solo practitioner for 10 years. I've also been a homeowner for the last 11 years and a dad for 11 years. That's about it.
Awesome. Okay, let's open it up to questions. I know that Melinda had a couple of questions. Melinda, did you want to repeat one of the ones you put in the chat?
Yeah, no problem. So my question is around your decision making and how you process those decisions. Your intro was very short, so I really need you to get into that, please. So how do you process and arrive on decision making when it comes to a case that you're working on, and what levels of diversity and intersectionality are you bringing to the bench? So whether it's your race, your gender identity, your sexual orientation. What are you leaning in on in terms of helping you process and make those decisions? And if you can share, to the extent that you can, share an example of a challenging case that you have had where you needed to lean on sort of your process in decision making, that would be helpful. So I know that that's a multi-part question. It's also outlined in the chat. I could reshare it. But yeah, that's my question.
Oh, thank you for that question. Let me say that a lot of the decisions we make as practicing attorneys, I am not a judge, but as practicing attorneys are complex decisions that require us to weigh many competing factors. Anytime you have to make a complex decision, I think it's wise to prioritize what exactly you're trying to accomplish and do almost like an analysis, a SWOT analysis, using your prioritization list to assign some sort of weight. Now, everyone uses a scale that's comfortable for them, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, so forth. But you're just basically trying to uniformly and systematically process things and give them their proper weight. But like I said in my answer in the chat, it's all predicated on the goal you're trying to accomplish. So, that's my strategy for dealing with hard decisions. As far as your question, the part of your question with intersectionality and diversity, I am a 45-year-old African-American, like I said, born and raised in Brooklyn. My father was born in Kingston, Jamaica, but immigrated to America at 8. My mom was born and raised in Brooklyn. They met as children. Both went to local high school without Sharpton. We're Brooklyn people. I'm a neighborhood guy. I'm what I think would be identified as cis, gender or cis sexual orientated. And, as trained attorneys, we expect judges not to rely on their subjective experiences. We expect judges to be objectionable and bring the law to the table and their knowledge of precedents, case law, and so have you. So, we are who we are when we wake up in the morning and put our pants on, but we really do not rely on our subjective experiences to do justice. I hope that answers your question.
Cheryl, you've got your hand up.
Hi, thanks for being here. You spoke very short, so I wanted to ask a little bit about community involvement. Are you involved in community, volunteering? Where have you been involved? You talked about being a neighborhood guy, so I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Sure. Well, I started at the NAACP Youth Council in high school in Brooklyn Tech and kind of fell in love with organizing. And from there, went to student government and NIPERG and pretty much anything I could get involved in on a local level. When I graduated from college, I took a job with the city council and Speaker Valone that allowed me to actually help fund community groups in Central Brooklyn as I liaison for council members and did a lot of constituent services. I then volunteered as a football coach for Tilden High School. Although I love Brooklyn Tech, I thought that my neighbors could use a better offensive lineman coach than my alumni. Later in life, I volunteered at local organizations. My mother was really, really committed and a past president, vice president, regional president in the International Lions. Her chapter was the Central Brooklyn Lions. I started the Leos in that organization. Very proud of that. They still exist today. More recently, I've started the Central Brooklyn Youth Organization, which is basically my experiences with travel baseball. And I think in the press, there's been a lot about how there are not many African-American or American-born Blacks in baseball. And we find that because the price has come out of reach. And my organization helps reverse that a little bit. I love to work with the Brooklyn Combine and the good lawyers over there in Crown Heights. I am a volunteer with the Brooklyn Bonnies, who have been teaching baseball in Central Brooklyn for 75 years. I have worked with the Brooklyn Tech Middle School Outreach Program, which is dedicated to increasing minority enrollment in the specialized high schools, particularly Brooklyn Tech. A couple other things that I'm forgetting as we speak that I've been speaking about lately, but yeah, I mean, I am community orientated. I've been a VITA member, the Vanguard Independent Democratic Association, for 10 years, and we're always doing programs for our community. Legal clinics, senior programming, employment for the children, professional mixers. I'm sure something else will come to me, but I think I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Sure.
Hope that was not too short.
We got another question from Steve.
Let me unmute. Ken, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Ken, I know this, Mr. Gale, I know this about you, which didn't mention, which I think is important, is that you are you started and you're an owner of a minority business in your neighborhood. Can you tell us about that and how that would affect you as a judge, particularly if you were in a commercial part or a landlord-tenant part? Can you tell us about that?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, when I graduated from college, I became very interested in real estate and started my mother as a real estate investor. From that, I got very interested in gentrification and, just the opportunities rather than focus on the displacement and the rising rents. I thought that as a community, we could, take advantage of some commercial opportunities. So one of the first things I did was start or open a local wine and spirits store to kind of bring the old members and the new members of the community together in Bed-Stuy. And I was able to do that right up the block from where my mother was born and raised on Nostrand between Lafayette and Clifton. That wine and spirits store, which is 8 or 9 years old today, really became a community focal point and helped launch so many thriving businesses on that strip. I also personally mentored several of my customers who married and have children and opened their own wine and spirits stores all over Central Brooklyn. I've also convinced a couple of my classmates from Brooklyn Tech to do the same in their gentrified neighborhoods so that they could cement relationships with their neighbors and also offer jobs to our neighbors and community members. I am the vice president of the Bed-Stuy Real Estate Board. I own a real estate brokerage, which again, we want young minority people specifically, but young people in general to own homes. And we realized that Bed-Stuy may not be affordable. So my real estate brokerage partners with organizations like NES, and we help young people buy homes where they can afford it, mostly Brownsville, East New York, communities in Central Brooklyn, where, we're born and raised and we have roots, but we can afford to raise our families. I also started a fleet of Uber cabs so that I can employ my cousins and help my friends employ their cousins and give them a sense of ownership as independent contractors. Unfortunately, that market went a little haywire and that company wasn't as successful as some of my other ventures. But to be honest with you, I think number one, being a successful entrepreneur at 45 is powerful imagery for the old members of my community as well as the new, who may not be used to seeing middle-aged or younger African-American men in suits and, making cash deposits in the bank 3 to 4 times a week. So I think I'm helping to change the narrative through example and by being visible in my community as much as possible.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. All right. if you'd like to follow up with some of Melinda's questions in the chat, feel free. I know that some of the other candidates have responded, but thank you so much. Next up, we have Monique Holloman. Monique, are you here? I think I saw her here.
Monique, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you so much. I don't know what's happening with that. Good evening. First and foremost, I just want to thank the IND family for having me here to participate in this important process. My name is Monique Holloman. I am a judicial candidate and I am running county-wide. A little bit about me. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I actually was born and raised in East Flatbush. I then went to public schools. I went to My 11, then John Jay High School for Criminal Justice. I went to college at Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. Before going into law, I actually started my professional career in the corporate financial sector. So I worked as a management. I went through a management training program for Wachovia Bank at the time, and I worked there for a number of years in a number of different capacities. When I started here, I moved back to New York soon after, working there for a number of years, and then I began my legal career at Fordham University School of Law. I started my career initially in working as of counsel with a small boutique firm doing criminal matters and family law matters. So I did that for about a year. And then I ended up working in the court system, and I started as the assistant law clerk for Justice Ellen Spodek. At that time, she's in Supreme Court. I was her assistant law clerk. I worked on matters in guardianship, Article 81 guardianship matters. We did site visits. I did research, and we went through cases in medical malpractice. I've done cases in personal liability, default judgments, city parts, mental hygiene. I've worked in a number of areas in Supreme Court. The job that I had, or I should say the role that I had as an assistant law clerk, ended after 3 years. And normally you're supposed to move on to work as maybe a principal law clerk for a civil court judge. I had the unique opportunity at that time, the chief administrative judge, Justice Prudenti, she created a position for me in the law department. And in that capacity, she put me on loan in the consumer debt department and foreclosure department in civil court with Justice Noach Deer. I worked there with Justice Noach Deer for a number of years, and then he was elevated to Supreme. At that time, when we came over to Supreme, which technically I was already in Supreme, we started working in the foreclosure part. And at that time, we were dealing with a backlog of cases in which there were no decisions for a number of years. At that point, we came in with a number of about 5,000 cases, and we were able to bring those numbers down. One of the first things that we did as a team, and I say that with my colleagues as well as with Judge Deer, is we worked with all of the legal services to ensure that pro se defendants had adequate representation. Unfortunately, in March of 2020, at the onset of COVID, my Justice Deer passed away. And at that time, when he passed away, there was sort of an outcry for us to continue on in that process in terms of working with the foreclosure department. So I had been tasked or asked to continue with what I'm doing. During COVID, I led a team of about 5 individuals. Some were court attorneys, some were referees. And what we did is we performed COVID settlement conferences. And what I was looking to do was to see who was impacted by COVID. What were the issues, if cases need to be stayed, if there were issues, if individuals had passed away. And so I continued doing that in my capacity until the administrative judge then asked me to continue on with the new judge that was selected to lead foreclosures, and that's Judge Edwards. But at that time, they didn't have anyone to do the mandatory settlement conferences in Brooklyn. And so now, currently, I don't work with a judge specifically, but I preside over all of the conferences, settlement conferences for foreclosures in Kings County, residential, owner occupied. With that, I have also been tasked, starting in September, I also handle all of the partition action settlements as it pertains to property and heirs. And so I have a full docket of cases, and I deal with a number of pro se litigants on a regular basis. And that's what I currently do now. Thank you.
All right, any questions?
I was going to say, did you want me to answer Melinda's?
Sure, go ahead.
I was going to go because I was going to actually say, as a natural progression, I think as I deal with cases now, I think, as you heard, I do a lot of settlement. And so when you ask about how do I make decisions, I think there's a number of things that I have to consider. And especially for me, I think it's important that I first understand what the goal is for the parties that I'm speaking with. I mean, obviously, from a plaintiff's perspective, we know what they're looking for, in terms of the bank. However, when it comes to defendants, it's important to understand, is there sentimentality attached to the home? Is it something that was a hiccup? Is it something that's more personal? Is it a health issue? And then making sure that they have the adequate information in order for them to know what their viable options are. For me, I think that I'm a forever student. So one of the other things that I do is I also confide and hope and speak with a lot of the mentors. I know you spoke with, Justice Graham spoke, but I've known a number of judges in the area that are mentors to me, and I'm not afraid to ask them questions, to get their insight, to understand if they've had similar cases and certain things. Obviously, the law is always important, but it's important for us to always look at the totality of the circumstances.
Thank you. Passion Smith has a question.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a two approach question. So one point I want to ask Monique Holloman, if you will, is one, how are you connected to the community that you're going to serve, right? I want to know that. And then two, how, again, like I've asked the other candidates here, how will you ensure that you remain unbiased with that connection, whatever it may be, to serve the law and also the community that you're connected to?
So currently, I'm involved in the community. I'm involved in a number of different bar associations. Currently, I tell you a little bit about my first career, my corporate career and financial career, because it has played an important role in what I do as a lawyer, especially because I handle foreclosures. I went to law school. I worked part-time as a home loan consultant. So I have a unique advantage of understanding a lot of the different areas that we discuss when it comes to corporate issues, when it comes to things regarding how notices are sent and things that the banks just do or don't do. And with that, what I have done throughout the time that I've been working in the courts, I've worked with the administrative judge on a number of different situations where we've held programs at different churches and outreach where I utilize the associations that I'm affiliated with, some of them relating to foreclosure. Some I've done programs on foreclosure. I've done foreclosures on debt management. I've spoken to a number of different communities on home ownership. And so those are things I'm committed to on a regular basis outside of just my job as a court attorney. Additionally, I work with a number of students. I do HBCU college tours where we take a number of students to schools from Maryland to Atlanta. We do that on an annual basis. I also am a board member of a nonprofit organization called I Am Cultured. And what we do there is we work with students who have had no exposure outside of New York City, and we get them passports and we travel to different areas. And this is a significant impact, because the reality is as we speak about implicit bias and we speak about diversity and inclusion, it's important for us to see other cultures in order for us to be equipped to understand the different lives and roles of other people. So the students, we've had a number of students, we've gone to Ghana, we've gone to Cuba, we've gone to Belize, we've taken a number of students outside of that. We teach them culture, we teach them cuisine, we teach them currency, and we also incorporate them in a number of community service projects to feed the homeless, to also during COVID, we fed a number of nurses at Brookdale Hospital. And so the list goes on. And so I'm actively committed to that. And obviously I will be continuing that in whatever capacity I'm able to do that. That will be something that I would continue to do. Your second question was, could you say that again? How do I stay impartial? I think it's very important that you do bring your experience to the table as a judge, and that is important. But I think it's also very important to be fair. And the reality is that being fair, and I think it's important for others to understand that not getting your way doesn't mean that it wasn't fair, but that the totality, again, I use the term, but the totality of circumstances are looked at. And I think that you must follow the law. And I think that it's very important that you understand the law, but I also think it's important to explain the law. And specifically with what I do now, working with so many pro se litigants, I think one of the things that's very important is letting them understand that they do have a voice, that they are being heard. And also, sometimes it's important to dumb it down. Okay. And when I say that term to say that sometimes me speaking with lawyers and we're just using terms like motions and this and statutes, we have to look at who we're speaking to and understand that they may not understand what we're referring to. So it's always important to take that into consideration in how we are setting an example.
Thank you so much. All right, we will move to our final candidate for borough-wide civil court, and that is Marva Brown.
Hi, good evening. I'm sorry, I'm at church function. I'm Marva Brown. I am a candidate for Kings County Civil Court, county-wide. I have spent my 16-year legal career as a public defender. I have represented clients in Nassau County, Bronx County, and for over 10 years in Kings County. My career is one of a litigator. I fight in court for my clients every day. I have done trials from misdemeanor level offenses all the way up to homicides. And I am eager to use the law from the bench to make decisions that will affect people's lives in a positive way. My interest in the law is something that I've had since I was 5 years old.
Oh, I think you muted.
Yes, I have had an interest in the law since I was 5 years old. And it's because I've had family members who work in corrections, and they always said, maybe you can help these people before they come to us. And it's a situation where I was able to see in an intimate way what happens in the carceral system, but also having a family member who went from correction officer to incarcerated person because he had a substance use disorder. And so the work is very personal to me. It's something that I share with my family and also with my children. I'm a married mother of 3. We live in the North Crown Heights community. I say that when I meet my clients, it's usually on the worst day of their lives. Being arrested is not easy, but I'm able to gain their trust. I'm able to go out into the community, investigate their cases. I do my own investigations. I go to witness homes, into local businesses, help my investigators get video. My children have been on investigations with me. They've prepped clients I've prepped clients in parks while my kids are playing in the park. I value our community and outdoor spaces. I'm president of the Friends of Brower Park in Crown Heights. And in that capacity, we plan educational and community events. The largest event is Juneteenth in Brower Park. We also do story time in nature in conjunction with the Brooklyn Public Library. And I say that the work that I do is sad, it's difficult, it is complex. So the community work that I do is to bring joy and education to the people. And I want to be a judge because I know that I can be a good judge, because I care about the community. I know the law. And again, I plan to use the law to improve people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marva Brown. Okay, questions? Let's see, any questions?
Hi, Marva. This is Melinda. I just wanted to know, how are you bringing your level of diversity and decision-making process to the bench with you? How will you be doing that? What does that look like?
Well, my level of diversity is apparent in every capacity that I am in every single day of my life. I'm a Black woman in America. And I say that myself, my community, we are a welcoming people. And so therefore I have relationships, personal relationships with people of other ethnic groups, of other gender identities. I've represented clients from countries from all over the world, every corner of Brooklyn. And so diversity is something that I embrace. And I also pride myself in having a level of knowledge that is increased, because I don't get to turn away clients and being a public defender. Whoever the court gives me, that's who I'm representing. And in order to get to know them and gain their trust, I have to have an understanding of who they are, who their families are, what their needs are, what their wants are. So it's something that I've taken very seriously throughout my career, and it's something that I'll take with me on the bench. In terms of decision making, it's about being a good listener. It's about listening with a critical ear, and asking questions, and being open to saying, I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I'm okay with that, but I'm going to go get the information that I need. I'm going to consult experts. I'm going to do the research, and I'm going to make an informed decision. And so all of that is something that I've used in my legal career every day, because, you know, even when I meet my clients, I have to say, well, what happened? And evaluate whether or not I feel it's truthful, whether or not a jury is going to think it's truthful, whether or not it's something that I can take to a judge or the district attorney to negotiate a disposition or a way to resolve the case, or use it to get programming for my clients. So being able to evaluate evidence, think about the legal parameters of the facts and apply the facts to the law, and then come to a final decision is something that I do every day.
Thank you. Steve.
Ms. Brown, can you tell everyone, I'm a criminal defense lawyer, probably know that, but can you tell people what it's like to represent people who are difficult to deal with, those that sometimes that just have done wrong and not show remorse, and how that experience will help you as a judge?
Well, you know, I get this question a lot, and even just a couple of weeks ago when I was at Cardozo Law School, my alma mater, teaching trial advocacy, a student got me in the bathroom while I was washing my hands and said, how do you defend criminals? And I said, well, it's a complex issue. Everyone is entitled to a defense, and I certainly believe that everyone is entitled to a competent defense and quality defense, and that's the representation that I provide to my clients. But honestly, you know, what the public would label the hardened criminals are usually the ones, for me, that are the most realistic about their circumstances, right? There's a certain way to discuss what happened, discuss the facts, the law, sentencing, exposure, right? And say, okay, this is what you're dealing with. This is the evidence that's against you. You can take your chance at trial. I'm an excellent trial attorney, but the weight of the evidence is such that you might want to consider negotiating a plea. And I've had, again, people that are considered the hardened criminals that are very realistic and very reasonable. And then there are those who are like, I want my day in court. And I've had to litigate cases where it's like, unfortunately, I know we're going to lose, but I have to do it anyway. And I've never been one to try and beat a client out of, or, berate them or say, you have to do what I'm telling you because I'm the lawyer. And I've seen people do that. And for me, I just give them their choice, right? And, help them make the most informed decision possible. And it does include some fights sometimes, but.
The question I really want to ask, is that how will that affect you on the bench, knowing that you have defense attorneys who sometimes have whether they are hardened criminals or not, but very difficult clients, and clients who sometimes don't understand the system? How will that help you as a judge, being that you've done that?
Well, I know what it is, right? To say, Judge, there's been a to be a lawyer, to say, Judge, there's been a breakdown in communication. We can't work together. I'm asking you to relieve me off of this case. Like, I understand those conflicts. And I've observed a judge ignore an attorney's pleas to get off the case, so much so that the defendant was saying, we had an intimate relationship. She's my ex-girlfriend. She's trying to throw me under the jail. And the judge still didn't relieve this female attorney. And I'm like, why would you make her continue representing someone who's making these allegations that, everyone knew was false, but to embarrass her, to put her reputation on the line, things like that. So I am very aware of the conflicts that arise between attorneys and their clients, and I'm sensitive to it. And I think that I would address it in the most reasonable and fair way for all parties, because if people can't work together, then justice cannot be served.
Marva Brown, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you to all the candidates for borough-wide civil court. We're now going to move into candidates for municipal court District 1. Rina Malik, are you here?
Yes. Hi, good evening, IND, if you're all still with us. I'm Rina Malik, and I'm running for civil court judge in the 1st Municipal Court District, and to be the first South Asian woman ever elected to the bench in Brooklyn. I have 13 years of experience as an attorney. I've specialized in civil litigation in private practice and in the state court system as a law clerk and court attorney in New York City Civil Court, Supreme Court, and at the Appellate Division. I was found qualified by the Kings County Judicial Screening Committee and highly qualified by the Judiciary Committee of the Asian American Bar Association. I'm honored to have been endorsed by Assemblymember Joanne Seidman, former Assemblywoman Joan Millman, and District Leader Shaquana Boykin. I live in Fort Greene with my husband and 2 children, where we've set deep roots in our community. I serve on the Kingsview Co-op Board's Community Affairs Committee, and also am a member of Friends of Fort Greene Park. Growing up in a first-generation family, the expectation for me was to go to med school and become a doctor. But in high school and in undergrad, I quickly realized that classes like history and government sparked this passion inside of me that I knew I had to follow. And now, years later, I'm running to be the first South Asian or even Asian American ever elected in the civil court in Brooklyn. I firmly believe that diversity on the bench matters, and it promotes confidence and trust in our judicial system. Diversity to me is about acknowledging our differences and acknowledging adversity and challenges that others might have faced. It's to have empathy for the plight of others who aren't like you and may not have had the same experiences as you. And in my opinion, this concept of diversity translates into respect for litigants and proper temperament. I also firmly believe that judges should possess honesty and integrity. These are personal attributes that extend to everything that I say, do, and write. Being honest and accurate with judicial rulings is important because we have to get it right for the litigants, because every case is important to someone. I work extra hard. I go the extra mile to move cases and get people results so that people can ultimately move on with their lives. And people deserve nothing less than respect, honesty, accuracy, and fairness under the law. Courts exist for the people, and I'm here to serve you ethically and efficiently. I believe my experiences in public service, values, qualities, and commitment to diversity have prepared me well for service on the bench, and in particular in the New York City Civil Court, which has long been justly termed the People's Court. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, who's got a question? Hal?
Hi, Rena. Could you maybe answer a question? Do you have anything in particular in your background that, my understanding is civil court deals with a lot of different issues. Do you have anything in your background that would help you better see different legal issues than the sort that normally just come before a civil court judge? What in your experience would translate into being able to look at different issues in different ways?
Yeah, the work of a civil court it comprised of many different parts. There's like a no fault part, a special term part, a small claims part, and all of those cases, I mean, all of those different types of cases have different standards of law, especially in the small claims. But at the end of the day, the type of experience, the type of cases that are needed are not much different than what you see in Supreme Court. And we get everything: personal injury, contracts, real property, different types of special proceedings. And not only have I managed to, master each new challenger and each new type of case that comes before me, but I've also had the experience at the appellate division to get a training in a different type of legal mind, to know what to look out for and what kinds of issues that I should be aware of. I also received, some experience in the appellate division working on criminal and family appeals. Should I be placed in family or criminal court? But that is really important to understand, that I think that it's very similar, and a lot of the big differences I think with civil court is just that the lack of equitable relief, but also just a monetary jurisdiction amount. But a lot of the cases are very much the same, which I have experienced in all different types of cases.
Thank you.
Thanks. Jason?
I'll be unoriginal and ask the same question. As a judge, how do you sort of create a good courtroom as opposed to a bad courtroom?
A good courtroom.
Or like so the courtroom runs well versus not.
Oh, well, I definitely have experience in that. I think that I was, specifically sought after by Judge DeAugust to come back to work with him. I volunteered with him when I was in civil court, and after working with Judge Larry Martin in King Supreme, he knew I knew how to run chambers efficiently. I've learned to develop internal systems that make it taking care of inventory and keeping track of things much easier, so things don't fall through the cracks. And I really think that attorneys appreciate that I keep tabs on everyone and every kind of conference or motion. And it's all these little tricks that actually invite judges to call me and ask me questions for advice, or they send their court attorneys and law clerks to be trained by me. Ask Rena, how do you do this? Where should you go? Because I do have experience in dealing with all different back offices. And I think that's one of the bigger keys for running a good chambers, is that you're really working in a team with all of the people, not just your part clerk and your court officers, but the administrative offices like the county clerk's office, the trial support office, everyone working together and on the same page really makes a big difference. And I had to do that. I actually had to streamline cases when we were assigned to the all key tam cases. Key tam is a term which I think that most lawyers don't even know. And it's claims brought under the False Claims Act, where private citizens can sue actually on behalf of the government. And I helped work with the county clerk, the trial support office, and the motion support office to make sure that we were being very careful with the sealed records, because everything is under seal until the attorney general gets an opportunity to investigate the claims and see if the state wants to supersede or intervene on behalf of that, with that private person. It's a very interesting, complex area of law. But, it's really about putting procedures in place so that everything is handled efficiently and administratively, and cases get moved and people get the results that they need.
Thanks.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. Any other questions for Rena Malik?
If I should answer, Melinda, the question about your personal experiences.
Sure, go for it.
So I think that the way that I guess different types of intersectionality or backgrounds, the only way I could see it kind of creeping into decision making is really about how you treat people in the courtroom, and the different types of procedural procedural decisions that you can make, like whether to grant someone an opportunity for to adjourn something, or Miss Annan's experience with having to bring her child to court. I mean, those things are things that might resonate with someone who might, I'd empathize with that. And even if you haven't had a child, maybe you could still try to understand what it's like to be in that position. I try to also understand where younger attorneys are coming from, or self-represented litigants, someone who doesn't know the court system. And so I think that is where diversity is important, because again, if it's not even about my own personal background, but it's about understanding there are differences in people's lives and upbringing that require a little different take. I think that it's really important to acknowledge people's differences, because I think that's also part of the reason why, diversity is so important in the courts. I don't think you could say that I don't see color, or I treat everyone equally, because then there wouldn't be documented studies about the family court being found to be a dehumanizing place. It's about how you treat people, and the process about how people, shouldn't be treated like sheep or farm animals coming in here and there. People are humans and they have real cases. And also, there's tons of, there's a report by Secretary Jed Johnson, which I contributed to. I'm part of the Asian American Bar, about serious challenges in the court system about racial inequities and diversity and the elimination of bias that are in the court system, and how we treat people who are using the court system. So those are serious things that we do need to address. I don't think that it comes up in a substantive decision making. I think that, when I was at the appellate division, I similarly reviewed the order that was appealed from, reviewed the briefs and the entire record, and started researching and drafting my own confidential report to give to the justices. And at the trial level, I would always my process for addressing anything is really understanding what is the standard of law. Did the movant or the person who is asking for this relief, did they submit evidence that meets that standard of law? And honestly, if there's no, affidavit from Rena Malik, then it's not part of the record, then it's not going to be considered. And there are instances where there are social issues that may have bigger implications, but you know what? And then usually the movements do bring in, evidence. They say, this is a report, this is a study. I did a case with a really known alleged sexual abuser, and granted leave for an amicus brief for Child USA to talk about child trauma from sexual abuse. And so those things are, if they're part of the record, then they can be considered if they have those if it's part of the record. And that's it.
Thank you so much for being with us, and
thank you everyone for your time and consideration.
And good to see you. All right. Last but not least, we have Norma Jean Jennings, also running for Municipal Court District 1. Thank you so much for your patience this evening.
Unmute.
Sorry about that. Thank you for this evening. It's good to see everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces here. So my name is Judge Norma Jennings. I am running in the 1st Municipal District. I am a graduate of Columbia Law School. My career has been in public interest and public service. I am currently the New York County Supervising Judge of Housing Court, where I supervise 10 judges, 12 court attorneys, and numerous staff to make sure that the court runs efficiently and effectively every day. Before that, I was a court attorney for 20 years in Housing Court. I've been around a while. Before that, I was a staff attorney at the Gay Men's Health Crisis. And before that, I was a a staff attorney at the Legal Aid, Brooklyn Neighborhood Office of the Legal Aid Society. So my career has been in public service. And for Melinda, your questions, I'd like to answer those questions. I'm in the trial part. So I do trials every day. I hear motions, I write decisions. So in determining and going through a trial, you have both sides there. They're presenting their evidence, and it's based upon credibility. I listened to the testimony. Being a good judge, one of the things about being a very good judge, Jason, you said, what is one of the good things about being a judge is you have to be a listener. You have to be not only fair and impartial, but someone who is listening. And sometimes your personal background does come into play, and considering and thinking about credibility of people who are in front of you. As a gay Black woman, I take that into account as well when I'm listening to the evidence in front of me. Again, like Marva said, I'm a Black woman every day in court. And that's important that I think about that when I'm looking at people and making decisions. So I listen to the evidence. I base it on credibility. The law is the law. It's there. As I always say, someone can always find an argument to justify their side, right? So it's up to the appellate term and the Court of Appeals, the case law that I follow, to make a decision in those cases. So that's how my trajectory is. I always do most of my writing and myself. I have a very busy courtroom. At times, since I am the supervisor, I do cover other parts. So those housing court parts are very busy. They have 100 cases. There's very contentious parties. I'm able to sit down and explain to the pro se litigants, which I think is also a very important thing for judges, is to be able to explain the law in a way that people can understand and that they can make an informed decision that's going to, change their life. In my case, it's your apartment, it's your roof over your head, it's your roof for your children. So those are things that's important to me. I'm fair, I'm impartial, I have the skills that is easily transferable. Everything I do applies to all the courts. I listen to the rules of evidence. I review the rules of evidence and deciding a case. So that is transferable to any part that I would go to, or any court that I would go to, right? So if I go to criminal court, because there is no guarantee that I would be placed in civil court, I can also be placed in criminal, I can be placed in family. So I have those skills necessary to make that transition and to make a smooth transition to civil court. I live in District 52. I live here with my wife. We raised our children here. I live close to several people in this Zoom this evening. They're my neighbors, and I appreciate their support. Before I became a judge, I was a member of IND, and sadly, I had to walk away from being a member of it, not because I wanted to, but because as a sitting judge, I cannot be part of a political club. So I was always proud to be part of IND. I was active even before, when I just got appointed, I was asked to be on the board. So it's something that I have always been proud of this club, to go against a machine and to side and endorse people based upon their experience and their qualifications. And I'm hoping that after this, you will endorse me as you did in 2005. You endorsed me before, and all of the reform clubs, which was the name at that point. A lot of the clubs were referred to as reform clubs, now progressive. So I'm hoping that you will endorse me and help me become the first openly gay Black judge appointed or elected in Brooklyn. So I thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to your questions. And tonight, I think we all got notice while we were on this Zoom that we were found qualified by the Judicial Screening Committee. And I too was also found qualified by the Judicial Screening Committee.
Thank you so much. And yeah, Lydia helpfully put in the chat. Let's see, what's Steve saying here? Steve, do you want to elaborate on what you're saying? You're on mute.
I don't think this is I'm not sure if this is the screening committee or this is the newly formed county committee of district leaders.
This was the Judicial Screening Committee.
No, I'm talking about what just came out now. There was just something that came out within the past half hour. So
It's the screening committee.
The screening committee.
It is.
Yes.
Okay.
We got the letters from Tanya Ali.
Okay, good. Then that's really important. I'm glad
Steve,
that's
they know this is important. They got the decision out so that we would know on time.
because I was moaning about it before the meeting.
All right, any questions for Norma Jennings?
Melinda, did I answer your questions?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Thank you. I just try to remember, I know everybody's been a long night for everyone. Again, I appreciate everyone taking the opportunity to give us this forum. And again, I appreciate everything, and I look forward to hearing that I received your endorsement.
Thank you. And you're very thorough. I feel like you answered all the questions we've been asking. We'll go to Hal's question. Have you been endorsed by any clubs or other entities that you'd like to share?
At this point, there are some district leaders who have endorsed me, but I will let them do it publicly themselves.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being with us. Let's see. Do we have a hand raised somewhere?
I just wanted to also apologize for being a wayward IND member. I had to leave the club when I became appointed by OCA as a referee, because that is a quasi judicial position. So I apologize, but I'm happy to be back in your company again. So thank you.
All right, well, if no more questions for Norma Jennings, thank you again for joining us. And we're going to move into the next part of the evening. So before we go into breakout rooms, and eligible voting members will get a ballot and we'll move into a breakout room for a discussion of what we heard tonight, we are going to vote on IND executive board and officers. So I'm going to read the slate for the officers first. For president, Alyssa Meyer. For first vice president, Danielle Zuckerman, moi. Second vice president, Hal Friedman. Corresponding secretary, Seamus Campbell. Recording secretary, Lynn Hill. And treasurer, Vicky Eastis. Could I get a motion to approve that slate?
So moved.
All in favor?
Second. Aye.
Third.
Excellent. Okay, now for the executive board, for the
I'd like to make a nomination.
Yes.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Jane Fada for a position on our executive board.
Okay. Anyone have any other nominations?
You can also nominate yourself.
Does the person accept?
Yes,
Send
she
us an
does.
email.
Yeah, we have a list from I believe our last meeting where nominations were made, and I can read off that list, and if there are any other nominations tonight, we can add them on. But that was Daniel Abramson, Steve Brownstein, Jesse Capel, Julia Elmali Sachs, Jane Feder, Karen Johnson, Kenan Kurt, Art Levy, Joan Millman, Greg Monty, Susanna Pasquantonio, Tyler Rocky, Nancy Shu, Jason Shelley, and Ira Weinstock. Is there anyone else who would like to nominate or be nominated? All right, hearing nothing, can I get a motion to approve the e-board slate?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I believe Joan was going to talk to us about petitioning.
Yes, so Seamus and I have secured a location for us to be a physical location. I know, which took some doing, and we will be at our favorite Brooklyn Heights diner, and that's the Park Plaza Diner, and we'll start out, hopefully we'll have petitions ready, and we will be there on Monday evening, the 20, I don't know, I think that's Seamus helped me with the date, I don't have the calendar in front of me. The 27th. Anybody can come by from 5:30 to 7:30, pick up a petition, but you cannot circulate that day. You can pick it up, have it, and go out first thing in the morning. Petitioning does not begin until the 28th of February. It's a 6-week period, and we encourage everybody to come in, pick up a petition, and circulate it among your neighbors and friends. Make sure they're registered Democrats. We'll have a sheet prepared if you've never petitioned before that talks to you about the pitfalls, what you should do and not do. It's not difficult. It's always fun to go with a friend. Our endorsed candidates, which we'll know at the end of this evening, may need our help. And so they or somebody on their behalf will contact you as well. People get nominated cannot sign their own petition, so they need to circulate and by going out with somebody who can be a witness. We will probably have 3 different lots of petitions, which we can explain at some other time. IND has been known throughout our county. When we finish with the process, our petitions hold up. People go door to door, they know their neighbors, they know they're registered, and they stand up to any scrutiny that's applied to them. So we're, the e-board and members of the club, the executive board, we're all counting on everybody to come out and do a little bit. If everybody does a little bit, then we'll have overwhelming numbers, and we'll be sure that all of our endorsed candidates will be on the ballot in June. Thank you.
Thanks, Joan. You always know how to run a robust, tight ship on petitioning, and we are so grateful for that.
Hey, Danielle,
Thank
can
you.
just, Joan gave the beginning date. What's the end date of petitioning? If you don't have it, it's no problem. We'll look it up.
Well, I have
Okay, here's it.
close.
Yeah, the end date
I think
is
it's
currently
the 6th,
Joan.
Marty?
Yeah, here's the problem. The law
Because
now
of-
says
yeah.
petition filing is the 2nd, 3rd, or the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and the last day is the 6th until midnight. The problem with that is that last day is the first day of Passover. And our observant Jewish colleagues don't work that day. They can't carry petitions to the Board of Elections and so on. And the legislature has been made aware of this weeks ago.
And they've done.
And I've talked to people at both boards of elections, and we're waiting for the legislature to change that. They can't just put it off for a week, the 4-day period, because if they put the 4-day week period off for a week, then the last day will be the last day of Passover, which is also an observant holy day. So what their answer will be, I don't know. It's going to be sometime at the end of March, the beginning of April. But where it currently stands, I don't think it will end up being because of that. They have to resolve that conflict with an important religious holiday for a lot of New Yorkers.
And also to piggyback on what Marty just said, we generally want all our petitions back way before that, so that the various lawyers representing different candidates have a chance to go through the material as well. So Seamus and I and Alyssa had a discussion and thought perhaps the last day for collection would be the 3rd of April. And that would give, but depends on how we have to wait and see what the legislature decides to do. But that's like a ballpark date.
Well, thanks for the update, Joan, and I'm sure you'll keep us posted. Cheryl's question.
Yes, I will.
Can anyone beat our petition champions, Hal and Art? That's the challenge this year. I don't know if anyone can. All right, so it's getting late. Let's prepare for discussion and endorsement. So for those of you who haven't witnessed this process before, the eligible voting members will go into a breakout room. Y'all are free to go. For the candidates who are ultimately endorsed, we'll make sure to let you know this evening. Thank you so much for being with us. I think Seamus is going to work some magic to move us into breakout rooms and share ballots. So everybody hang tight. And Seamus, let me know if I'm forgetting anything.
That's about it. I'm right now just going through the list of everyone that's eligible to vote that's present. And then in about a minute or so, you'll be sent a little notification that you're going to the breakout rooms. And as a reminder, anyone who is a candidate is not allowed to participate in their own discussion. I believe that only really impacts like 1 or 2 people here. So if they want, I actually have a second room where we can put them for that time period, so they would be able to discuss other races. And then one side note also for everyone, based on the rules that we passed this evening, anyone who has any sort of conflict of interest will have to disclose that if they are going to be speaking about any sort of any candidate to be endorse. Broadly interpreted, basically familial. If you're working for them, endorse them, things like that. You know, just use your better judgment on that. If you really want the exact language, I'll bring it up.
Thank you, IND.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Thank
Have a
you
good
for
Thank
doing
you
it.
very much.
Good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Good to see you all.
Be
Good night.
well.
Be well. Take care.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
This may happen in a few batches, as FYI, but I'm gonna open up the first room right now.
Seamus, should I stick around and help in here, or
Yeah,
should I go
all
now?
right, I'm just gonna stop this and we should be good, so.